and you're fighting against your enemies from the other realm. And as you're leveling through the 40 levels of the game, you move through the 4 tiers of content that we've got. And all the while, obviously you're seeing that your path as a character is taking you in and out of enemy territory. So sometimes you're attacking, sometimes you're defending. And you're basically trying to help control these pieces of territory all throughout the world. Your end goal is to get over here to this 4th tier, where you're competing over what we call the campaign. Initially, you fight over this neutral territory. This particular territory here is the city of Prague, which is half controlled by the good guys, half controlled by the bad guys. You're basically fighting to tip that in one direction or the other. So let's say we're the good guys, because we look like good guys. And we take control of Prague, we push the forces of destruction out. We've now moved the battlefront up here, and now we're fighting in the Chaos Wastes. If we're successful, we take control of this piece of territory, we push that battlefront closer to our enemy's capital city. Now you can see these 3 fortresses around the capital city. Those represent the 3 fortresses that are at the end of the 3 pairings. So we have 1 fortress here and 1 here in this pairing. If you go to the Dwarf and Greenskin pairing, you'll see they've got a fortress at the end of theirs. High Elves and Dark Elves, they go kind of sideways. They've got fortresses here and here. What we need to do before we can invade a city is control 2 of the 3 enemy fortresses. So you're fighting on more than 1 front at a time. You basically need to control 2/3 of those fortresses. If we do, we can invade the enemy city. We can bring out siege rams, catapults, battering rams, boiling oil, cannons, you name it. We can use it to try and knock down those gates, get inside the city. Once we're inside the city, that's really where the exciting part of the game kicks into overdrive. Unlike most games where the capital city is sort of a static environment, and it's really only designed to be a place that you go and rest your character or train, our living cities are centers of commerce, centers of content, centers of gameplay. There are dungeons underneath the cities, there's questing that you can go on as a friendly player, and then obviously there's a lot to do once you're invading. You can go inside, you can burn down all the buildings, you can kill all of the merchants, you can steal everything in the city. You fight your way through these major sort of landmark encounters all throughout the city, trying to conquer as much of it as you possibly can, with the end goal being that you fight your way into a palace, fight your way through the palace, and fight the king. It's not actually a king. Down in the Empire, it's obviously an emperor. Up in the inevitable city of destruction, you actually fight the Chaos Champion Charzanik, who's this big sort of mutated magician guy with a crazy like crab arm and huge horns coming out of his head. And that fight represents the highest level encounter in the entire game. Your goal there obviously is to fight him successfully, cut off his head, stick it on a spike on your armor and go, look what we did. That's really like the World Cup trophy of violence.
And if you arrive at this point, then it's like if it's an end for the game?
Not really. It's very much actually like sports. When you think about the World Cup, when the World Cup ends and let's say your team has won, nobody goes, well that's it, no more football, we're done.
No.
They go, let's come back and do that again. And if you lose, you don't go, well we're going home and we're never playing again. You go, we're coming back next time, we're going to do better, we're going to fight harder, we're going to be stronger, we're bringing a better team, we're going to practice more, and next time we're going to win. And really that's what the game's all about. After you've invaded an enemy city and burned it to the ground, there's a time limit for how long you can be in there. Once that time limit is up, we actually push you out of the capital city and back to this neutral territory. And then this battle begins again. And that actually happens on all 3 fronts. So if you've taken the fortresses in the other pairings, all of those pairings now reset to this neutral position. And you basically fight that entire campaign again. And it really is like starting the World Cup season again. And you're now fighting your way through that entire process trying to get to the championship. So it's a lot more like sports than a video game.
And then to arrive there, you fight with other troops of people.
Absolutely. So there are a couple of things that will be going on. You're working for what we call zone control. Justin, you can just go into one of the zones here. So these areas off to the side are basically safe areas. These are places where things like quests, exploration, sort of standard MMO exploration and adventures go on. But everything in red is a contested RVR territory in the world. And these points that you're seeing on the map, these are battlefield objectives. These are points on the map that you need to control, just like Battlefield 1942. And in order to control the zone, you need to control the majority of the battlefield objectives. And once you control the zone, then you're able to move forward to the next piece of territory. And actually, if you go back up one level, that type of interaction is taking place in every zone in the game. And controlling a zone in level 1 actually trickles support up to these upper levels. It's easier for you to control different parts of the world if you control more of the world early on. So if you have a majority of the territories in the first 3 tiers, it's going to be much, much easier for you to take over territory in the 4th tier.
And to control a zone, I have to defeat the troops that controls this zone, and after that, I have to leave there some part of my troop to guard this zone.
So you'll definitely have some of that. In a lot of places, you'll actually see there are fortresses in the world, things that we call keeps. Those keeps will actually, once you've taken them over, the game will automatically spawn defenders, NPC guards, and the keep lord that stay inside that keep and defend it in the event that you're not there. Now, they're not as strong as players are going to be. So strategically, the best option is going to be keep an eye on all the territory that you already control, and then coordinate attacks as you're moving forward so that you always have the right number of people keeping track of all of the territory in the campaign. However, once you've actually moved the battle from here to here, the enemy has to fight you here. They cannot take over territory down here. They can't skip around here and invade this piece.
What about the gameplay, for example, and the combats is more like a game where, for example, God of War, where you play and you combat like me, or
it's not console style fighting. It's more sort of it's much more like standard massively multiplayer interactions, where it's more about strategy than reflexes. It's more about knowing how to use your character than how fast your thumbs move. Part of that is just a function of this game gets so chaotic when there are hundreds of players on the screen that it's not like a console game where it's you and one other character you're keeping track of. You've got hundreds of characters at once, and you need to be able to behave strategically, and so the combat system is very much targeted at that.
And have you considered to move this game into the consoles?
It's always a possibility, but it's not something we're very interested in right now. The PC market is very strong at the moment, especially at EA at the moment. If you actually look at what our games label is putting out over the next 6 to 9 months, this is the strongest lineup we've had in years. And really there is a renaissance sort of for PC gaming at the moment. And I think a lot of that has to do with players realizing that while console games are a lot of fun, there's something about PC gaming that allows you to connect with a lot more people in a much easier way. And that you can have this sort of depth of gameplay that it extends beyond 10 or 15 hours and then you're done. This is more of a hobby than a game. You're looking at hundreds of hours over the course of months or years, rather than 10 or 15 hours over the course of a week or so. So we're really focused and dedicated on making games, great games for the PC, just like everybody else in the games level.
And which are the minimum